Hello students, good afternoon and happy new year to everybody. Today I am going to discuss some important differences which are very essential to learn in macroeconomics. In macroeconomics. Know that there are some goods. Goods are of different types and classification of goods can be represented by final goods and intermediate goods. Subject economics. Class. Commerce 12. What? 12 commerce. 12 commerce. 12 commerce. Chapter. Some basic concepts. Basic concepts of macroeconomics. Economics. Basic concepts of macroeconomics. So, you know that there are a number of goods which are available in the country, in the world. But all goods are not the same one. Goods can be divided into several parts. So classification of goods. Goods. Its classification. Its classification. So goods are of different types. Final number one, final goods. Final goods. And number two, intermediate goods. Intermediate goods. Intermediate goods. And consumption goods, and capital goods. Capital goods. So, goods are divided into two ways. One is final goods and another is intermediate goods. Final goods are those goods. Final goods are those goods which have crossed the final boundary of production. Which have crossed the final boundary of production and ready to use. Final goods are those goods which have crossed the final boundary of production and ready to use. But the intermediate goods are those goods which have not yet crossed the final boundary of production and ready to use by the final user. Ready to use by the final user. So, suppose this chalk is final good because I am the user of this good and I am using for some purposes. So, it is final good. The sweet which you purchase from the shop and eat it, that is final good. But the curd, sugar, which is used to make the sweet are called intermediate goods because these goods are not final goods in this sense. Still it is used to make the sweet. Therefore, there is a difference. If the good comes finally for the consumption of the consumer, then it is called final good. But if the commodity which is used to make a good final and help it by using it is called intermediate goods. Now, Baba, current is gone. Hello? Hello? Blackout. Current is gone. Current nahi. Okay, thank you. Hello, it is my tapper. Okay. So the goods can be divided into two: final goods and intermediate goods. Now, I have given you the example of sugar. Sugar which is used for making sweets with other elements is intermediate goods. But when the sugar is directly used by the consumer, is final good. Is it not? So, whether a good is final or intermediate good depends on the end use of the commodity. Whether the commodity or good is final or intermediate, it depends on the end use of that commodity. আমাদের end use কিভাবে হচ্ছে? Whether the sugar is used to make sweets or the sugar is directly used by the consumer. If it is directly used by the consumer, then sugar is final good. If it is used to make sweets, it is intermediate good. So, there is the difference between consumer goods, final goods, and intermediate goods. There is another group is consumption goods and capital goods. Do you know what is consumption goods? The consumption goods are those goods which are directly consumed by the consumer. Consumption goods are those goods which are directly consumed by the consumer. But the capital goods is that goods which is used to produce another goods, which is used to produce another goods. Suppose capital goods, suppose the thing which you use to do other things, in cultivation. In cultivation, the plows are capital goods because it can be repeatedly used. It can be repeatedly used, and it is not end. Its consumption is not end up with single act of consumption. So it is capital goods. Now, what are the differences between intermediate goods and final goods? Intermediate goods and final goods. Now I am giving you the examples with the differences. Suppose here intermediate goods. Intermediate goods. Goods. And here I am writing the final goods. Final goods. It is a revision chapter. I think you can remember that I have already discussed all these points. Intermediate goods. The goods which have not crossed the final boundary of production, and are not ready to use by the final user, by the final users. This is number one. And this is final goods, the goods which have crossed the final boundary of production, and ready to use and are ready to use by the final user is called final goods. So it has not crossed the final boundary, it has crossed the final boundary. It is not ready to use by the final user, it is ready to use by the final user. Okay? Number two. The goods may be used as raw materials, Okay, is not ready, is used as raw materials for the production of other goods. For the production of other goods. Production of other goods. Just I am giving you the note for your benefit. And number 2 is these goods are not used as raw materials, for the production of other goods. Of other goods. Now number 3, these goods may be resold. These goods may be resold by the firms. For profit. During the accounting year. But these goods, that is final goods, but these goods mean final goods, these goods are not resold, by the firms for profit. During the accounting year. Now, number 4. Number 4, value is yet to be added. Value is yet to be added. Value is yet to be added to these goods. That is not complete good, so further value is yet to be added. Value is yet to be added to these goods. And this number 4, value is not yet to be added. Yet to be added to these goods. Because these are final goods. To these goods. Because these are final goods and these are ready to use. These are final goods and ready to use. Number 5. Five, expenditure on these goods, expenditure on these goods are called intermediate consumption. Intermediate consumption, intermediate মাঝখানে, intermediate consumption, expenditure. Intermediate consumption, expenditure. Or cost. But expenditure on these goods are called final expenditure. Are called final expenditure. Right? And next. Number 6, these goods are not included. These goods, or the value of this good rather. Or these goods. These goods are not included in the national income accounting. Included in the estimation of national income. In the estimation of national income. But the final goods are included in the estimation of national income. Why this is so? This is so because if the expenditure on intermediate goods are included in the estimation of national income, bas chole geche. If the goods are included, that is the intermediate goods are included in the estimation of national income, then when it will come as final goods, it will be used as, and then their value also included in the national income. And that final goods, the expenditure on final goods, value of final goods is included the cost of intermediate goods. So if the cost of intermediate goods is included to estimate the national income with the final goods, then it will be double fault. So double fault will come. Thank you very much.